Today, crowd out the things of tomorrow, and the things of this earth overshadow the things of heaven. And earth is ever too near us, and earth squeezes us until we think this is the real world. But there's something beyond. Something beyond what our eyes can see. Something beyond what our ears can hear. Something beyond what our hearts can experience. There is eternity. And we need to hear it over and over again about the day in Revelation 21 verse 4 that God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. About the day that there will be no more death. About the day there will be no more sorrow. About the day there will be no more crying. About the day that there will be no more pain. About the day that the former things are passed away. Because the world is too much with us, and we tend to forget. So God must remind us again and again and again that this world is not our home. That one day there'll be no phone calls at 1 o'clock in the morning telling us that our best friend has just gotten cancer. That one day there'll be no phone calls in the night telling us that a son or daughter, husband or wife has been killed in a car accident. One day there'll be no CNN and Fox News and MSNBC and all the rest of them parading across the TV screens the poverty and the sickness and the suffering and death. One day we'll no longer have children that are drafted into the war and killed brutally. One day all of that is going to be over, because the Bible says in Isaiah 11 verse 9, "They shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover to the sea." The earth is going to be full of the knowledge of the Lord. We'll never cease telling the story of His grace and His goodness. Never cease telling the story of His magnificence and His love. And Jesus has done everything there to make us happy. Heaven is a real place. The Bible says in Isaiah 65 verse 17, "For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth. The former, that is the former memories of sorrow and heartache and disappointment and pain, shall not be remembered nor come to mind. They shall build houses and inhabit them." Not only will we have our city home, but we'll build houses and inhabit them. They'll plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them. Eden is restored. This is reality. Build houses. Have you ever thought about your dream home on some hillside overlooking a beautiful lake with fields of waving grain and beautiful vineyards and fruit? You say, "Pastor, I don't have the money to build a home like that. I only dream about it." Maybe you live in a 1 or 2 room apartment right now. Maybe it's difficult to pay the rent right now. Maybe you're struggling right now to pay the mortgage. Well, I'll tell you one thing. There's plenty of currency in heaven to pay your mortgage on your heavenly mansion, because Jesus already paid for it on Calvary's cross. Your mansion is already paid for. They'll build houses and inhabit them. But you say, "I don't know how to build." Don't worry about it. All the greatest architects of the ages are there, and they're going to volunteer as well. "But I don't have material." Don't worry about it. God has vines, and God has all kinds of materials that you can build with. You know, everybody worth knowing is going to be there. And there's going to be such unselfish love in heaven that we can't wait to serve one another and bless one another. And you need help in building your house? I may not know how to do it, but I'll help you to find somebody that does. And, Solomon built quite a temple, and we can get some advice from him about building your house. They'll build houses and inhabit them. They'll plant vineyards and eat the fruit of them. Think of what the fruit's going to be like. We look at some oranges, and they may look good for us, but imagine oranges the size of watermelons. Imagine strawberries the size of apples. Imagine bananas the size of, well, how are they going to be? 2.5 feet, 3 feet? I mean, one banana for a whole family? We cannot possibly imagine the joy of heaven. The Bible says they'll not build and another inhabit. They'll not plant and another eat. We don't have to worry about somebody overrunning our garden. We don't have to worry about somebody driving us out of our home. As the days of a tree, so shall be the days of my people. And my elect shall long enjoy the work of their hands. Wouldn't heaven be a boring place if there was nothing to do? Do you like art? Do you like crafts? There's going to be plenty to do there. Do you like gardening? There's going to be fantastic stuff to do there. Do you like travel? We will travel from planet to planet. We will travel from star to star. We will travel to the vast technologies of civilizations never fallen by sin. Every talent that God has ever given you will be fully developed. Do you like music? Those music talents will be fully developed. And we'll have music throughout all eternity with instruments we've never dreamed of or seen, with choirs that are so magnificent. Do you like geography? Well, you can travel from planet to planet, from star to star. What is it that is of your interest? Whatever that is, you will be able to. You like science, biology? We'll know the mystery of the ages, the scientific mystery of all the ages. But you say, I like talking to people. There's going to be plenty of time to talk to people then. I like talking to people. What about fellowship and friends? We going to have friends in heaven? Look what the Bible says. Matthew chapter 8, verse 11. And I say to you that many will come from the east and the west and sit down. Now, I love that. Sit down. Not run by. Sit down with Abraham, with Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. You know, I was telling our first lecture here that one of the liabilities, you know, my wife and I have so many blessings, and we're blessed and blessed and blessed and blessed and blessed again. But one of the things that is difficult for us at times is that we are in a place in a very short period of time, and we travel the world, and we just get acquainted with people, and we want deeper friendships, deeper relationships. We can sit down. But that's really a challenge at times when you travel as much as we travel. And so tonight, at the end of the meeting, we're out in the lobby, and people are coming by and saying, hi, it's so good to see you. Try to get to know everybody's name, and people are coming by, and they say, oh, can I take your picture? Sure. I smile over here. Can I take your picture? Sure. I smile over here. And I'm happy to do that. You know, can you sign a book? Sure, I'm signing books over here. But here's my point. And I will do it till as long as it takes, you know. But I wish that I could sit down with you. I've been in some of your homes. We've visited together. Some of you have offered me meals, and it's just been such a blessing for me personally. But you know, to be able to sit down, to get to know you, to know your joys, to know your sorrows, to know you as a human being, as a person. In heaven, we've got all the time in the world. And we're going to sit down someday and share together. The Bible says they sit down with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. And you know, everybody worth knowing is going to be there. I mean, I imagine just someday I'm out working in my garden, and I'm picking one of those long bananas to bring it home, you know, so for the meal. And I look over there and I see somebody's strawberries about the size of apples. And I see somebody over there tilling a strawberry. I say, hey, sir, our farms border one another. Hey, sir, can I ask you, I'll trade you one banana for 5 of your strawberries. He looks up and says, sure. By the way, what's your name? My name's Mark. When did you live? In the 21st century. What's your name? My name's Moses. You're Moses? You led the children of Israel through the Red Sea? You're Moses? You saw the manna fall down from heaven and your farm's next to mine? He says, yeah, I'm Moses. I say, let's talk about it. Tell me what it was like for the water to come out of the rock. Tell me what it's like for 40 years to see the manna rain down from heaven. And he tells me the story of his life. And he said, hey, there are a lot of friends here. I want to introduce you to some people. Did you ever meet Daniel? Well, I mean, I wrote a seminar about Daniel. You ever meet Daniel? I want to introduce you to Daniel. And so he takes me up the road a ways. And I see Daniel's farm. And I say, Daniel, you got time? He said, hey, remember, this is eternity. And we sit down together. I said, Daniel, you tell me. When you were thrown into that lion's den, Daniel, were you afraid? He said, sure, I had some fear. But he said, you know, Mark, fear it's not that you don't have any fear. It's trusting God. And so I trusted God with my life. And he threw me into that lion's den. And the king threw me into the lion's den. But he said, you know what God did? When you trust God and step out in faith, God's going to work some miracle. And he shut the mouths of those lions. And I just put my head on the back of some big cat and fell asleep all night. And that king who turned away from me, he's in that palace. And he's tossing and turning with his silk pajamas on all night. He's in that palace. And Daniel tells the story. You see, everybody worth knowing is going to be there. It's not worth missing that glorious, eternal heaven because we fellowship with these brightest minds down through the ages. We meet Paul and Silas who sang in prison. And we say to them, what gave you such faith? And they say, Jesus instructed us and strengthened us all the way, every second. And I say, what faith you must have had. And then they say, but wait a minute. We heard, Pastor Mark, that you held a meeting in the Best Western Inn. And we heard that people came and they stepped out by faith. Some of them risked their jobs because of the Sabbath. Some of them made decisions to pay tithe when they didn't have it. Some of them stepped out from popular religions. They stepped out from the majority to be part of the people of God in the minority. Tell us about what it was like in the 21st century to serve Christ. Tell us what it was like when Satan unleashed all of the wickedness and powers of hell. Tell us what it was like there in that century. And we tell the story. I said, wait a minute, I want to introduce you to some of those people. And I go looking for you. And you tell the story to Moses and Daniel. Heaven will be unceasingly telling the stories of God's grace, telling the stories of God's mercy, telling the stories of God's love. But then Daniel begins to say, Moses begins to say, I can't wait. Sabbath is coming. Sabbath is coming. Sabbath is